was so dramatic. Scared shitless. He's like, oh my god, like, what the I think, am I a little unhinged? I loved it. I love the tension. She is freaking crazy, okay? Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Is back talking about books, and today we are going to be talking about Wretched by EMILY MCINTIRE. It is the third book to the Never After series. If you don't know anything about this series, it's a series of romance books that are all standalone, and each book is based on, I don't know if it's Disney particularly, but it's like fairy tales that are reimagined and reworked into a story, mainly about the villain of each of those fairy tales. For example, the first one, Hook, is about Peter Pan. It's not about Peter Pan, but it's lightly inspired by Peter Pan, the characters in Peter Pan, Hook being one of the main characters. The second book, Scarred, is loosely inspired by Scar from The Lion King and events of that story. So this one, Wretched, is loosely inspired, very, very loosely inspired by the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. And there's a lot of characters in here that are loosely inspired by Wizard of Oz characters. For example, Courage, the Cowardly Lion, and the main character of this book is supposed to be similar to the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm gonna get into my thoughts about the book. It is a romance enemies to lovers book. Let's go over the synopsis, the good and the bad. Overall, I'm just gonna say I really, really liked this book. So surprisingly, because I have reviews about Hooked and Scarred. They were not my favorite books. They were kind of average to me. They weren't amazing, but I do feel like I liked the plot more than the romance. This book was so unhinged. It was so unhinged, but I loved it. I loved everything about it, and I think I realized the type of books that I like and the type of tropes that I like. I really love a real enemies to lovers moment, and this is real enemies to lovers. It's not misunderstanding to lovers. It's none of that. It's enemies to lovers. They have completely different moral codes and lifestyles and all of that. They are actual enemies. This book is really, to me, reminiscent of the Mindfuck series. I have a review about the Mindfuck series too. Maybe I'll link it down below. This just had everything. An unhinged, badass main protagonist, female lead, who is the essence of that one TikTok sound of women, but wait, women that can kill you. And that is her. She is freaking crazy, okay? Let's get into it. What is Wretched by EMILY MCINTIRE about? Wretched is a mafia enemies to lovers romance book that is about the female lead, Evelina Westerly. She has always been the bad guy, and I'm just going to read the synopsis. As the brains, brawn, and botanist behind her family's drug empire, so she is part of the mafia family, she is her father's secret weapon. With her days divided between perfecting her greenhouse, because she is one smart-ass cookie, she freaking makes this drug that has been spreading everywhere, seeking revenge for her sister's murder. A sister, there's three of them. One of her sisters died, and she believes that the other sister, Dorothy, killed her. The first sister, okay? Very complicated family dynamics. Seeking revenge for her sister's murder and putting a gun to the head of anyone in her way. Murderous, crazy, unhinged. Love her. Evelina doesn't have time for anything else, especially not for love. After a one-night stand with a gorgeous man at a nightclub, our male protagonist, she's sated her urges and is back to her criminal ways. That is until the same man shows up as the new Westerly lackey under a totally different name. So meet our male lead, main protagonist, Nicholas Woodsworth. But his real secret is much more dangerous than an alias. He is an undercover DEA agent. He is a narc, okay? He's hell-bent on destroying the drug trade that devastated his own family. This is literal enemies to lovers. He hates drugs, and he falls in love with a drug dealer, with the freaking supplier. It's so good. When he realizes that the youngest daughter of the Westerly Empire, Evelina, is the same woman he has been fantasizing about since that night at the club, the one-night stand, attraction wars violently with disgust. Evelina embodies everything he is against, and he's been sent here to be her downfall. Yet the more they learn about the darkness in each other's hearts, the more alike they seem, and when hatred turns to something more, Nicholas will have to decide whether he can love a wretched woman, even if it means bringing both of their lives to ruin. You guys don't understand. I've read this book a while ago, and I'm just doing the review now because I was really busy doing the Diemmi fanfiction and doing the second part of that video. I kind of put this book on the back burner, so I kind of forgot a lot of the plot points in this, but when I read it, it was so good. It was so unhinged, and I love the inner turmoil that these characters go through. And I'm realizing a couple things about myself, about what I like in a book. I like when the characters struggle so much internally and hate themselves for loving the other person. I think I realize I love a hookup to lovers trope. This is a one night stand to lovers trope. They meet at the club one night. She's in a disguise. She's usually a brunette, but she wears a wig because she doesn't want anyone know. Like, in her family, in the drug dealing world, people don't know what she looks like. The name Evelina Westerly, no one can put a face to a name because she's always out in disguise. She's just super smart. No one even knows that she is the one who's making the drugs. But she goes out and has a one-night stand in the restroom with Nick. They, do the dirty, and I love a one-night stand that is just so mind-blowing, and they can't get each other out of their head, and then they meet each other again, and then they fall in love. I don't know what it is about a story. I have read 4 to 5 stories that have that trope, okay? 2 of them were on Wattpad, but those books ended up being so good to me. This book, I will say the book Beg For It, which I've talked about before a long time ago on my channel. So freaking good. They took it off Wattpad, sadly, but that had the hookup to lovers trope. This book on Wattpad, I think it's called, his name started with a D. I think it's like Dominic. That's the name of the book. That was a hookup to lovers trope, and it's so freaking good. I think I really like this trope for some reason, like a hookups to lovers trope. It's so good to me. And this was that. So when I saw that this is how they started the book, I knew I was gonna love it. There was something about it. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I have my review on Goodreads. I am okay with the romance and okay with the characters. I think Evelina is a really strong character, although I think the male lead, he's kind of a side character, not gonna lie. There's not a lot that I really loved about him, except at the very end where he does do sacrifices for Evelina and for his love for her, whatever. But he was kind of giving me fuckboy energy, and I'll get into why. I think the characters weren't that strong in this book, but for me, I think the plot really stood out. The internal conflicts really stood out, and that's why I loved this book. I also really like how violent and unhinged it was. I don't know why I ate it up, okay? A lot of this book, it's just tension between Nicholas and Evelina, them having sexual tension, them trying to stay away from each other, but they just can't. And, doing the deed, they'll go out. He's undercover. Evelina doesn't know that. He's undercover. They go out and try to collect money from people who they've sold drugs to, who haven't paid them back. And Evelina becomes unhinged. There's like 3 or 4 scenes where she just becomes so unhinged. And he's a cop, okay? She just starts shooting people and murdering people in front of him, and he's scared shitless. He's like, oh my god, like, what the fuck? And I love it. I love it because she just starts being a badass. I mean, she starts being crazy and unhinged. But he just still can't help loving her. I don't know. Okay, this is a chaotic review, just as chaotic as Evelina is, okay? So the problem I had was with the main male love interest, Nicholas. I think his personality wasn't really that great. He kind of gave fuckboy energy. In the beginning, I was like, ew, he's so gross. He was really gross to me because he goes into the club, he hooks up with Evelina because he thinks he's hot shit. He probably is hot shit. He goes around messing up all these girls' lives and just, fucking everything that has legs. He kind of irritated me sometimes, and he would say some things, and I can't really point it out specifically, but he would say some lines or say some things that gave me really misogynistic vibes. And he really just gets away with everything because he's so hot. He can just do whatever he wants because he's so hot and all these girls love him. And to me, that annoyed me. I'm okay when the guy is cocky, but he was giving more than cocky. He was giving entitled. Okay, having a main male love interest who's cocky is one thing. Similar to, I'm watching Suits right now, so Harvey from Suits, he's so cocky, but he's so baby girl at the same time. So there's one thing of being cocky and liking to win. There's another thing of being entitled and kind of misogynistic, giving me misogynistic vibes. But you know what? The plot made up for it. The plot and the drama, it made up for it. It was so dramatic. I just had a dang good time reading it. Listen, this isn't the most perfect book in the world. It's not written the most beautifully, But when I have a good time reading, this is bringing me back to my roots. When I first started really getting into reading in the early 2020s, COVID times, like when I first really got into it, it's bringing it back to then, because I get really judgy about books and about characters, and obviously I have a channel that reviews books, but sometimes I want to just let loose and just have a good time reading it. And the bad things sometimes overpower my enjoyment of a book. This, no matter all of the imperfections or the flaws that this book might have, I really did not care. I had a good time reading it. I loved it, and it was really similar to the Mindfuck series, and that was great. Also, let's get into the schmexy things, okay? The enemies to lovers was enemies to lovering, okay? It was like intense enemies to lovers. They hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. They are the exact opposites. They have morals that they both stand against. They are both the epitome of what each other hates. The epitome of it. Just that alone makes such good tension. There was so much inner conflict and dilemma, and the progression to the third act conflict, you already know what the third act conflict is going to be. It's pretty obvious. It's Evelina finding out that Nicholas is an undercover cop and having her trust be shattered. It's such a good third act conflict. It's so obviously going to be the third act conflict, but getting to that scene and reading that scene after having 2/3 of the book, having all of this tension and having them hate each other and then love each other and then hate each other and then love each other and then doing it and then, it's perfection to me. It's so good. The struggles with the morals, and then that gets into the kinks, because the kinks in this, it has everything. I mean, not everything, okay? I don't think there's any foot fetish or whatever, which I don't like. It really had it all. Dominatrix, they got it. Hate sex, it's in there too. They had so many kinks in here.
And I forgot to mention this during the review. I was reading the Goodreads reviews on this book after I finished it, and there was one review that got me fucked up. It is one of my favorite reviews of all time, and it's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading the smut scenes in this book, is that sometimes I had to skip through some of the smut scenes, even though a lot of them were very good, but some of them were so cringy. Because tell me why. He was reciting poetry as they were doing it. They were having slam poetry sessions. It was hilarious, because I'm like, what are they doing? What in the rupee core? What is going on? Anyway, it was so funny.
This is the thing that I love about a smutty book, okay? A smutty book that's good. To me, what makes a smutty book good? It's when the smut elevates the plot and makes the plot move forward. Because there was 2 or 3 smutty scenes in this book that really moved the plot forward or elevated the emotional connection between the characters and changed the plot. And it wasn't just like you can just insert whatever smutty scene in anywhere. No, it actually moved the plot forward. And there's some really emotional smutty scenes in this that I absolutely love. For example, I think the dominatrix smutty scene, where he just really let go and let her take control because she feels no control over her life. I forgot, because it was like a month and a half ago that I read this book, but I just remember reading that scene and being like, wow, this is so emotional and so much emotional connection, and it's really moving the plot and moving the story forward. Even the emotional story, it's really moving it along, and I feel more connected to these characters than I ever did. I really liked it, okay? 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. The thing I did not like about it is that the male lead could have just been any copy and paste character. I loved the female lead. I loved her. She was badass. She was crazy, unhinged. The ending of the story as well. I mean, it's really romantic, I guess. I'm gonna have spoilers here for the ending of the book if you haven't read it. If you don't want to know spoilers, I usually put spoilers in all of my reviews, okay? But I'm gonna get into spoilers right now. The ending of the book, he is a DEA agent, he's a cop, but he's fallen in love with Evelina, and he ends up murdering someone so that Evelina can escape and go away, have a life of her own, hidden somewhere, so that the cops can't find her. And he literally kills someone for her. And that is something so against his moral code. He's never killed anyone before, but he does it for her. I love it. Love it. Get you a man who's gonna kill someone for you, okay? Get you a man who will turn as unhinged as you are. That was him. That was the only that was the only good thing he did in the book. I think, am I a little unhinged? Maybe. this book was really entertaining. I say I read it for the plot and I thought the plot was good, but if it's the actual plot, there is no plot. The whole book is tension. There's no curve of a plot of actual things and mafia things happening in it like there was in Scarred. Scarred, there was an actual plot and an actual rebellion and revolution happening. This was more an emotional plot. But every scene, I loved it. I loved the tension. I loved it. The ending, I thought was really, really sweet. I thought it was really cute, heartwarming. Would the book couple actually stay together by the end of the book? I do have this series I haven't gone back into in a while. But I really think they have deep-seated trust issues, and the only thing that they really bonded over was their mommy issues, because they both have mommy issues. Horrible mommy issues. Both of them. And they have really great sex. No, they probably would not stay together, because that's really all they share. And the trust issues are just sky high. But it doesn't negate the fact that I absolutely love this book. And I think that the third act conflict gutted me. It gutted me to my freaking core. And I thought the ending was really cute. And I thought it was really sweet. So I love this book just for the female lead, to be honest. I support women's rights, but I more so support women's wrongs. Okay? I loved this book. And I loved her. What can I say? Okay? If you've read this book, please let me know your thoughts down below. This was a very crazy, chaotic review, as I always do on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I loved it. If you read the Mindfuck series, like, it's similar to that, kind of. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. And I will catch you in the next one.